Dragons can come in all shapes and sizes, from the classic wyvern types like Smaug, all the way down to the cute and larger body types like Dragonite from Pokemon. And those are the kind of dragons we're going to focus on today. Actually, you know what? Before we continue, I gotta show off something special I did for this video, so be right back, one sec.
5 minutes later.
Hey, there we go, that's more fitting. For those that don't know, this is my very own Pear-Shaped Dragon OC, Crush, who I made some subtle changes to before making these. And no, I'm not going to be putting on a different voice to distinguish from CK because I can only imagine how irritating that might get. So anyway, let's take a look at one of the main inspirations behind this very cartoony, yet classic looking style of dragon. The Reluctant Dragon is a thing that Disney made in 1941. Why describe this as a thing and not a movie or a film? Well, technically yes, it is a film of sorts, but not in the way you'd normally expect. And that's one of the reasons why The Reluctant Dragon is so interesting to me. Most of this film is actually a live-action story about a guy named Robert Benchley, who goes to Walt Disney Studios to sell the rights of The Reluctant Dragon to Disney, and along the way he's shown the many different aspects of production that goes into the making of a Disney animation at the time. It's some really fascinating stuff, from creating and designing the characters to frame-by-frame animation, music composition, sound foley, and even how they used color technology at the time. Which actually brings up a really cool detail about this film. The first 20 minutes or so are in black and white, but when we get to the part with the Technicolor room, the rest of the film is in colour. It's like turning on the power in Ascension. Oh, I think there's only one person who's gonna get that joke. But yeah, you're probably wondering, well that's great and all, but what the heck does any of this have to do with the Reluctant Dragon? Why are we following this Robert Benchley guy? Where's the dragon at? I want to see the cute dragon! Well, that's because the Reluctant Dragon part of this film is basically a 20-minute animation that's shown pretty much right towards the end of it. And don't get me wrong, it's a really fun and enjoyable animated short, but if you're like me and you expected a 90-minute animation about a cute and friendly dragon, but were really confused when reading the description of this on Disney+, that is perfectly understandable. I'm sure there were lots of people who also looked at the poster and were like, oh, the Reluctant Dragon, that looks really wholesome and sweet. Wait, what? Robert Benchley gets a behind-the-scenes tour of Walt Disney Studio? What the heck is this? Of course, there's nothing stopping you from simply skimming to the part where the Reluctant Dragon short comes up, but honestly, I'd actually recommend watching the whole thing. Not only are there a couple more animated shorts in there, one of my favourites besides the Reluctant Dragon itself being an animation of Donald Duck interacting with Benchley, but again, just simply seeing how all these shorts and movies were made with the technology they had at the time is genuinely fascinating. What's also intriguing as well is the controversy that surrounded this production at the time. I won't go into too much detail about it because I want to focus on the film itself, but basically this was made during the Disney animators strike of 1941, where strikers were protesting against things such as unfair business practices, low pay, and lack of recognition. Yep, that definitely sounds like a Disney controversy. Though another thing I'll mention here before watching this is that it's one of those really old movies that has one of them, this movie was made a long time ago and does not represent our current views today screens that pops up before it starts, which honestly I can certainly appreciate that they chose to do that rather than hack this film into pieces and cut out anything that would be deemed offensive nowadays. You can't censor or alter history because otherwise how are you supposed to know what really happened or how to learn from it? I mean, it sounds a lot worse than it actually is, but really there's only like 2 instances of it in this case. One being that Benchley tells the Asian lady at the drawing class what goodbye means in Chinese, which, yeah, I'm not sure why he'd tell her that. It's useful for us in the audience, but an easy fix would have been to just have her say it instead of Benchley. And in the animatic for a short called Baby Weems, there's, well, let's just say some very unflattering depictions of Africans and Asians.
Oh dear, we are in trouble.
Anyway, I'm definitely going off on a bit of a tangent here, but the bottom line is I definitely recommend watching the whole movie for the behind the scenes stuff with Benchley, but just go into it with the mindset that hey, this was made a long time ago. Which brings us neatly along to the Reluctant Dragon short itself. The story follows a young boy who's led to believe that all dragons are just bloodthirsty, angry, fire-breathing troglodytes that terrorize villages. That is of course until he goes to find one himself, and he ends up finding a big showering gay dragon. What? He's light-hearted and carefree. What do you think I meant? Anyway, so here he is, the round boy himself, and straight away he is an absolute delight to watch. From writing poetry to elegantly dancing around and using his tail to dry himself, this character is just beaming with personality, and is the perfect Ryan Johnson to the boys' expectations. Oh, sorry. Perfect subversion to the boys' expectations. And the best part is, we haven't even seen all of his quirks yet. So the boy tells the dragon that his father is rounding up the village to exterminate him, but the dragon says that he doesn't fight or make enemies. And as much as I love this dragon, one thing I will say here that kind of bothers me is that the dragon doesn't have a name, unfortunately. So I'll just have to refer to him as either the dragon or the reluctant dragon going forward. So the boy goes back home very confused, only to find out that a knight named Sir Giles is on his way to kill the dragon?
Not in my town, you don't.
The boy rushes back and the dragon is just chilling there playing the flute for some birds. Which, not only is the flute a great instrument that matches this character, but the joyful song he's playing here perfectly complements his happy outlook on life, and works incredibly well. But once again, he tells the boy that he doesn't fight, and Sir Giles will just have to go home. So then the boy goes to see Sir Giles himself, and what's interesting here is that he's also a Ryan Johnson of the boys' expectations. Oh, sorry, subversion of the boys' expectations. Instead of this immaculate book version of a knight the boy expects, Sir Giles comes across as more of a pompous comedic buffoon rather than a competent protector of the people, and to be honest, from what we see of him, it's hard to believe he's ever fought against a dragon before. I mean heck, he looks like a much older gentleman, he has a skinny physique, he slips clumsily as he steps out of the bathtub, and just look at the way he's walking here. But I really do enjoy this subversion of both the knight and the dragon here, which all culminates to one of the themes of the story. You know, just because there's a dragon and a knight, it doesn't mean it always has to end in a fight. Oh hey, I did a poetry! And even if there does end up being a fight or conflict of sorts, it doesn't mean it has to end with one of them dying either. The first Shrek movie is also a very good example of this. What's great about these characters so far is even after their subversions, we've also established some common ground between the two. In this case, both the knight and the dragon have an affinity for poetry, which is used to keep the dragon's interest after he's told Sir Giles is a dragon killer at the picnic. Also, it has to be mentioned here, but another fantastic trait about the dragon is he's able to serve an entire picnic to the boy and Sir Giles on his belly, which is not only very amusing, but actually seems quite useful. I mean, again, dragons can come in all shapes and sizes, and for pear-shaped dragons, this certainly seems to be a very convenient benefit. So Giles and the boy need a fight to happen because the villagers are expecting one, but of course the dragon is reluctant because he's just so darn wholesome and cute, and why aren't there many plushies available of this guy? I mean, seriously, there's one here which kind of looks okay, I guess, but I want like a life-size movie-accurate one, damn it. Disney, come on! Stop making pointless sequels and remakes and give us a life-size plushie of this dragon! Do it! Do it! So here's the issue, a fight needs to happen because the villagers already called for Sir Giles, but we don't want to have any casualties in the process. So how do we resolve this? A boxing match maybe?
Boogie taking a step back. Oh my gosh!
Okay, nah, but Giles comes up with a plan to fake a fight, thus reassuring everyone in the village about their dragon situation, and nobody has to die in the process. And this leads to the quote-unquote fight itself, and it is just absolutely over the top and entertaining. First off, it has to be mentioned that for a pacifist, the reluctant dragon is legit insanely good at fighting. This is probably the first conception of this type of dragon to exist, and you think to yourself, aw, they're super cute and wholesome, but there's no way a dragon that large could do any sort of damage. Heck no, this dragon can not only breathe fire, but can manipulate smoke and use it as a rope. He can spin around on his tail and create a smoke cloud, where Sir Giles and his horse just run straight through it. He can use his tail as a spear. He is just an absolute weapon. You want to know why the reluctant dragon doesn't fight? It's because he would absolutely destroy you. And the fact he's just a kind-hearted and gentle dragon who's holding back his immense power, only using it when necessary, is so cool to me. In a way, he's kind of like Superman. And I just gotta say it, but man, I love this dragon. There's just nothing I can say against him. So the fight ends with the dragon holding a spear underneath his arm to fake the look of it having gone through him, and the story ends with the reluctant dragon now being a welcome part of the village? Oh, okay, I mean, yay, that's great. A happy end for all, but what exactly was said to the villagers when they revealed that the dragon wasn't actually dead? And why exactly do you need to promise not to scourge the land again? You never scourged the land in the first place, you're a good boy, you were just chilling and eating cake and writing poetry. Oh well, those are pretty much my only complaints with this short. Aside from that, it's an incredibly entertaining short story. Each of the characters have plenty of personality and purpose, the themes are pretty much on point, and the dragon himself is easily the best part about it. He never fails to put a smile on my face and is a genuine treat to watch. Could have stuck the landing a little bit better with the ending, maybe throw in an extra scene or two to tie it up a bit neater, but everything else is pretty great. Again, I'd highly recommend you watch the whole thing if you haven't seen it before, but if you're only interested in seeing the short itself, that's completely understandable. So the question now is, since this dragon has inspired a lot of people to create dragons with this sort of exaggerated shape, is the reluctant dragon the first of its kind? And if so, is this the origin of the term pear-shaped dragon? Now, after looking online, I can't find much to say that the reluctant dragon isn't the first, but hey, I could be wrong, and by all means, if you know of a pear-shaped dragon that's appeared on screen before this one, then let me know in the comments below. The more you know and all. Oh, and just to clarify, the term a pear-shaped dragon is only one I've heard of in recent times, and is not exactly an official term. It's just used to describe dragons that either have exaggerated proportions of the lower body like the reluctant dragon, or simply dragons in general that have a little more weight to them on the lower side, like Charizard from Pokemon or the dragon from Shrek. And you want to know another interesting example? There's actually a pear-shaped dragon named Dulcie in a Sonic the Hedgehog show from the 90s, which I only found out recently that she even existed. A dragon in the Sonic franchise? Though I do think it's quite a shame that they took away her pear shape when they redesigned her in a later IDW comic.
Is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby.
Oh my goodness! Squidward!
Also, in case you didn't know, the term itself is literally based off the fruit of the same name. In case you were somehow unaware, or have no idea what a pear is, if you're an alien watching this video, this is called a pear.
Indeed. These humans have no idea what insidious plans await them.
But since it's not an official term, I wouldn't exactly recommend searching it on Google either, because the results can be rather, strange to say the least. The thing is, you know a pear-shaped dragon when you see one, so it's best to go off finding artists who either draw in that specific sort of style, or search for some fan art of the more popular dragons. But even then, it can easily veer off into more, let's just say, abstract territory, so yeah, just a friendly heads up in case you were curious. To be honest, for the longest time, pear-shaped dragons have never really clicked with me before watching The Reluctant Dragon. I was always under the assumption that seeing them in cartoons like that was some kind of stereotype or misrepresentation, which of course isn't the case at all. Back then, I always wanted my dragons to look a certain way in order to like them, and it took me a long time to understand and accept that some dragons just have larger body types, just like humans do, and that's okay. And I know that sounds like the pettiest and most obvious thing in the world, but it's just a weird bias I had for quite a while, and I'm glad to say that I'm definitely over it. I mean, heck, I'm literally using an OC inspired by the Reluctant Dragon for this video, so if that isn't proof, then I don't know what is. Actually, here's a thought. If I were to argue against my prior feelings as to why I couldn't connect with or disliked a dragon based on their look, then first off, I'd say don't judge a book by its cover, and second, if it's a case of not understanding the appeal behind it, then I think this clip right here perfectly summarizes the whole appeal.
Oh, say, that's a shame.
Oh no, I think round tummy kinda cute.
Well, there you have it. Gollum won the argument. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and if you enjoy dragons like myself, then consider subscribing. Check out my DeviantArt where I post my artwork in between videos, and my Twitter for the same thing, but with added dragons. I'm Sika- oh wait, I'm Crush at the moment, so oh well, thanks for watching, goodbye!
Stop tickling me!
Oh, there's a doll inside a doll inside a doll! Sounds perverse.
What?